right, this is Yom Kippur, and we are at a cabin in the woods. And the weather just got super crazy. It snowed last night, and I brought 3 dresses and a towel in case I wanted to sit in the sun. But I guess this would be affliction. It's cold and snowy, but then on the other hand, when I woke up and I saw the snow in the middle of the night, I was thinking where it says, though your sins be as scarlet, they will be white as snow. So I thought, that's probably, because I asked the rock, what is the snow about on Yom Kippur? And I think that was really cool to hear that and have that verse come to mind.
I never had snow.
No, we've never had snow on Yom Kippur. And we had snow on trumpets too this year with crazy cold weather. So this year's pretty bizarre. So just to open up Yom Kippur today, the girls are still asleep doing their thing. But before we get together with the girls, I thought that it would be cool to talk with Isaac about anger. I talked to a lady yesterday who's concerned about entering Yom Kippur with some anger issues and unjustly treated for many years, coming out of it just recently, and then entering into Yom Kippur today. And she was asking me how does she do that with this anger inside. So who better to talk to this morning about anger than my husband, Isaac? Because why, Isaac?
I'm familiar with it.
Isaac is familiar with anger issues. And so he said that he would chat with me about it. Because when I was talking to her, I had prayed before I talked. I prayed before I called her and wanted to know how to approach it. So I just felt the rock say I could just share my heart and what I understand about forgiveness and what to do with anger, because man, that's a tough one when you get hurt over and over and over. And like I was telling her yesterday, this world is so brutal on the heart. It's a real brutal place. And I think it's brutal when you're not in covenant. But man, I think it gets even more intense and more brutal when you are in covenant, when you are walking this path. So
freezing our butts off in North Idaho is where we were.
That's right. Brutal. The weather's brutal. Life in general is brutal. I mean, governments are brutal. I mean, it just takes a toll on a person. So, Isaac, before I spiel off on how I process anger and forgiveness and stuff so that I stay clean in front of Papa when people hurt me and how I react to that, let's just chat with you for a second about anger, because this is Yom Kippur. How do you, well, for one, do you have anger issues coming into Yom Kippur today? Or does anger just kind of come with into territory?
No, it doesn't come with the territory, but it actually do kind of this time around because of just some things that developed just recently, just in the last few days.
Oh, really?
Right before going into it, yeah.
At work?
So, just a combination of work and home. It just adds up to something that to me feels unfair. And for me, that's what triggers it, is a feeling of unfairness or injustice. And I think that's probably usually the case. And then for some people, it's also power. Whenever you feel a power inequity, then that's what triggers it for a lot of people.
Triggers the anger.
Yeah.
Is power inequity. When somebody has power over you, and then...
Or if you just feel like someone has exerted like a level of power, like one-upped you.
Right. Control.
With power, like, you know, or you tried to do that to them and then they didn't allow you to.
Right.
Then that can also make somebody angry.
Right.
If you try to exert your power, authority, and then somebody like didn't respond right or didn't allow you to do that. Mm-hmm. So it all has to do with power, I think.
Power, and
also injustice.
And you said not fair. I think that's a
justice.
I think that's a term that is really good when understanding justice, is when it's not fair. How many times have we said that? It's not fair. Mm-hmm. It's so not fair. So like... Yeah,
because they say the guilty cry out for mercy and the innocent cry out for justice. So if I feel like I'm innocent, but this situation is not fair or unjust, then...
Right. Then you want...
And there's anger.
And then there's anger because you're not getting the justice. You're not seeing the vindication.
Yeah. And then if you witnessed that and saw that happening to someone else or to some people or a people group or some kids or whoever, then you're going to be angry as well.
Right.
Just to witness an injustice, right?
Right. So then, so a couple things came to mind. Number one is we were created to have dominance and how do you say that? We were created to have domain over and control. Dominion over, not others, not people, but creation, which I'm talking nature and animals and stuff like that. So so when you have that power struggle, like that whole thing is evil there, because we weren't supposed to be over someone and others aren't supposed to be over us. You know, that whole power struggle is evil to the core, you know. So, but that came to mind, and then the idea of justice, and it's not fair, and wanting justice now for ourselves, for what we've been through, and for what other people are going through. This is where I went to with the conversation yesterday, is that I feel like the only way to deal with that is to say and to know for sure that Yahshua is in the end going to bring the justice. So nothing that we can do here is going to bring the justice, you know, that we want. He's the one that's going to bring it. He's going to bring the justice. He's going to vindicate us, and it's going to be so sweet when he does. Mm-hmm. And until then, like, I remember days when I would get hurt, and you were there, you know, I would write these long letters, these long emails to these people that hurt me, and it wasn't fair, and I just wanted to make my statement and make sure that, you know, they knew that I was innocent, and mm-hmm. I was trying to vindicate myself. I was trying to make justice myself, mm-hmm. you know, happen. But in all reality, if I did send those out, they always came back to bite me, mm-hmm. and you would...
All right, because then it becomes a power struggle, because mm-hmm. you're trying to, you know, exert yourself and, you know, and stand up for yourself.
Stand up for yourself, right.
And that's what I'm saying. Then when the other person doesn't allow that or doesn't respond like you would like you would like them to,
right.
then you get angry.
Yeah, and I think coming from like being an abused woman before, I was learning at that time to stand up for myself. So maybe it was part of the process I needed to go through, mm-hmm. you know, because I hadn't stood up for myself, and I was like allowing myself to be a doormat. And so, but I remember writing these letters and stuff, and Isaac I'd have him read it, and remember you would be like, okay, that was good, but let's not send it. You're like more on the cautionary than me, and sometimes I would send it anyway, and the backlash, he just knew. Mm-hmm. You just knew the backlash was going to be bad, and most of the time it was. I don't think it ever really did well. I'd always get a letter back or something back that was another, whew,
Right.
went up.
Well, right,
Just
because
an anger moment.
right, because nobody likes to be
Told.
put in their place.
No.
Nobody likes to be talked down to. Nobody likes to anything. And people just don't respond well to that. So
No, but when Yahshua comes, they have nothing to say. He's going to put them in their place. And to me now, I can find a lot of comfort in that. And then I can let go of those people that hurt me. And I don't have to say anything. I don't have to write a letter. I don't have to try to justify myself. I don't have to, prove myself or make it right. Because then I know that he is going to do it, because no one can backtalk him. No one's going to be able to up him. And he's going to, it's going to be so awesome, because so if I'm clean inside and I know I'm innocent and I want to fight for that innocence here and I want to prove it and I want to tell those people, you're wrong, you're unjustly accusing me, you're falsely accusing me. I want to say all these things to them, but then they're just going to one-up me. They're just going to do that power struggle. But if I can just let it go and know that Yahshua remembers, know that Yehovah remembers, and he knows me and he knows I'm clean, then in the end it's going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. The justice is going to come from Yahweh and Yahshua, and no one is going to be able to say anything, and he's going to vindicate. When he says it, it's a done deal. It's like, you know what, when he said to Moses, he's like, I'm going to do something for you so that no one will question you. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's going to happen for for me someday, and for those people that go through or falsely accused and go through all that stoning and whatever it is that.
Yeah, I think that's like half of the answer to how to deal with it now. Maybe the bigger half is submitting to his authority and then being patient and willing to wait for him to bring real true justice. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And to be the one, and allow him to be the one to administer that when he's ready. Right. That's probably the biggest part of it. But then the other part of it, getting from there, I'd have to say it's going to be empathy, and understanding is also going to help go a long ways. Yeah. Because then that's going to help to allow us to allow that other person to do their thing and to flop around and to be the way they are. If they're a miserable person, to allow them to be miserable and not try to change them. That's a really, really good point. And point it out or put them in their place or anything. And so I think understanding goes a really long way. In a situation where you're kind of stuck with somebody, whether it's work or a family member or I feel like the only one you're really stuck with is family. I feel like everyone else you can leave. You can say goodbye most of it. Yeah, because you're self-employed. But so you don't have work relationships like that. Well, but you can go get a different job. I don't think we're called to be a doormat. I don't think if something's not good. What is it? We were just this summer. What was it? It's go where your heart is taken care of, right? What was that we were learning and trying to get a new mindset on? Was if they don't take care of your heart, then you shouldn't be there. Well, everybody's got stuff in their life that they wish was different that they can't change. And so I'm just saying. No, I really like dealing with those sorts of. Yeah, there's times when you can leave, and you should leave and just be out of the presence of that negativity. Then yeah, for sure, choose that. But in the situations where you can't, then I think it's gonna be understanding, I like that. I like the empathy thing, to look at somebody and go, wow, where's that coming from? What kind of thing are you dealing with? And the stuff that's going on there, maybe I wouldn't understand it, but just to have the empathy, maybe I don't understand it, but just the empathy to say you're on a journey, and that's a ruach thing. That's beyond me. And one letter from me trying to position myself and say that I was innocent or you falsely accused me or whatever, that's not going to do anything. It's just going to make them mad. But the empathy, I like that idea, is to look at other people and say, hey, you got some stuff dealing with, and just
know that they're dealing with stuff.
Even if it's just feeling sorry for them because they have to live with themselves
right.
all the time.
I know.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's also true.
It's true.
You know?
Well, like somebody told me recently, and I won't say names, but, you know, the idea that, you know, within one conversation, I think, you know, after years of a great friendship, and then finding out in one conversation, you know, that this person has two buckets for people, a positive bucket and a negative bucket. I mean, this came out of the person's mouth. I have two buckets for people, a positive bucket and a negative bucket. And my negative bucket for you, Rebekah, is overflowing. Okay, I wasn't laughing. I was actually crying. It was really a really rough conversation to have. But at the end of it, you know, I let her say what she wanted to say and basically said goodbye. And it was like, wow, what a miserable way to live. To look at people and say, wow, I've got a positive bucket for you and a negative bucket for you. I mean, what a miserable way to look at life. I wouldn't. So, you know, on one hand, I can feel sorry for that person.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, what anger, what do you, okay, so there's looking at Yahshua, you know, the as a believer, we have the coming justice, the coming reward, and the coming justice. And I can put a lot off onto that. I can kind of do a lot of letting go and waiting for that day. But between now and then, you know, how do you deal with it? One thing is trying to look at other people's stories and have empathy. What's another way to deal with the anger when you've been wrongly accused, when you've been, you know, when you have had, you know, horrible things happen to you at the hands of another, and you're trying to come into Yom Kippur, you're trying to come into it clean, and yet you have this anger. Let's just chat for a second about, you know, how to deal with that between now and the King's return when he vindicates us.
Whatever situations are, they've already happened. You've already got the fruit of it. You're already feeling like maybe a victim or hurt or whatever, and then it's leading to anger.
Right.
And what do you do?
Then what do you do with that anger? Well, number one, like, we have to remember that the scripture says don't sin in your anger, right? So it doesn't say you're not going to have anger. It says just don't sin in it. So don't break the Torah, don't break the law in your anger. So as you're angry, you know, you're so angry that you're not going to show up for Yom Kippur. That would be a sin. You're so angry you're going to go murder someone. That would be a sin. You're so angry you're going to go steal. You're going to go, you know, get drunkardness, have that, you know, start leaning on alcohol. You're so angry that you go hurt someone else, you know, or you hurt yourself, right? So that would be sinning.
Take it out on yourself.
You take it out on yourself.
Like eat half a bag of Oreos.
Well, I don't know if eating some chocolate is... But that would be sinning in your anger, would it not?
Practice laying stuff down.
Practice laying stuff down. That's a big one.
Yeah, you can lay something down temporarily, even if it's just for one day. And you just let it go.
Probably the idea is to lay it down forever.
That would be nice. But
you could pick it up tomorrow if you really wanted to. Right?
Yeah, but if your concern is for Yom Kippur or for the feast season, then you can put it down at least temporarily. That's
interesting. Like if you put it down, let's say at Yom Teruah, when we do the practicing of Rafa, when you lay things down for the fall feast season, like if you could really do that and lay the anger down, lay all the burdens down, like everything, all the way through the end of Shemini. I mean, you're talking 3 weeks. At the end of Shemini and the day after Shemini, you look at all that stuff, maybe you could write it down somewhere and pull it out and then go, wow, do I really want that back? Nope, I'm good. Put it back and then continue on. Like you'd have those 3 weeks of practice laying it down. Has it happened for you?
Probably. Because when you feel like it's important for a feast day, then it's easier to be proactive about it. And then when it comes up again, you know, especially if you write it down.
Yeah.
you know, deliberately write it down and say, I'm laying this down for the feast. And then when it comes back up, then you can catch yourself and say, oh no, I chose to lay that down. So
I want to lay that down.
Not going to dwell on that.
I think that's another thing, letting it go. Like, I don't know. That's a tough one, but I find that is like so important to just let it walk away. Like I do a lot of online when I have this sort of thing happen where it could lead to anger. You know, I practice real quickly blocking. I block that person. I unfriend that person. I let it go. Like I let that person go. There's millions of other people, billions of other people. I don't need that person. I don't need that person's input. And so I really practiced over the last, I'd say 10 or 12 years, letting go. And so I go through the grief process. This is another thing that probably need to do between here and Yahshua coming, so that, because the whole point is for your heart to be healed, right? And so if you're holding anger in, your heart's not healed. Your heart has there's no ability there for it to learn new things and continue to grow and have love in it if you've got anger in it. So part of the work of the Ruach HaKodesh is to heal that broken heart, which would mean to extract or get rid of the anger. Right? So letting go would be one way of doing that. I lost my thought.
That would be the best way.
That would be the best way. So that so that you didn't like hold on to that and say holding on to this anger is more important than me having life or me having my heart healed. Like that other person who hurt you doesn't even give a flip about you. It doesn't care. They don't care about you, and so whatever. If you're holding on to that anger, it's going to just destroy you. Is it comfortable to have it? I mean, can you imagine not having it?
Well, for someone who's a tendency to feel like a victim, then it is empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that? I know I was a victim a long, long time ago, and I know I was in that whole mindset. But tell me, how does that feel?
Because
empowering.
The anger can, it's a powerful emotion.
Mm-hmm. Does it make you like
or it's
energized?
An empowering emotion, Yeah, it can give you that, energize you and to give you that feeling of throwing off the chains, throwing off the
the 80s, the whatever. 80s rock bands, that sort of the anger that like throwing off the social norms and all that stuff, just like empowering. Right?
Well, I think every generation or every decade that we've experienced has had that.
Had the social movements of what do you call it? Anger against the system, and so anger fuels a movement. That's not all of that is wrong, because I feel like there's righteous indignation. That's one thing that like and getting the righteous indignation inside of me like moves me. And when somebody tries to shut me down and say just calm down, I'm like, don't calm me down. This is gonna like be great. The fruit of this is gonna be fantastic, because I'm gonna like run. I'm gonna like continue on the course and stay there with that righteous indignation that just makes me so angry at the evil and the wrong and the wickedness. That fuels my ministry. It really does. Between here and Yahshua getting vindication and for us, and between here and him bringing justice, like what are a couple other things I have a couple things written down, like boundaries, like learning to set boundaries. So learning to not be the victim, learning to what happened, why did that happen, and then doing some self exploration and introspection and saying what caused that to happen. Was it really a divine thing, or was it just me having some bad habits and some bad connections and bad thought processes and mindsets, and then where's my boundaries with people, like why did I get into that situation, and then think through it and go, am I clean in that? Well, maybe not. Maybe I did make some, it's not like everything was ordained by Yehovah, which is a big falsity I can't stand. And you know, in the believer community is like, well, everything happens for a reason. Well, yeah, it happens for a reason because like I'm an idiot sometimes. And it was my choices that made it happen. Doesn't mean that Papa made it happen. It means I made it happen because I'm a dumb nut on some level, on different things. So I should never have let that person in my life. I should never have, you know, trusted this person or did this or did that, whatever it be, you know, take responsibility, I think, for, you know, changing those mindsets and making new habits and say, I'm never going to have that happen again because I've grown up and I'm not going to participate in that same behavior.
Yeah. No, but it requires being honest, and it's about
honest.
the situations, and that's really tough for an extreme optimist. And it's also tough honest. For either extreme or an extreme pessimist or negative person. It makes it difficult to be honest. But that's what is needed is being honest about the situation, the relationship, and about the realities of it and how far it can actually go and how far you can actually trust this other person. And then
that's a good point.
You know, and then trying to maintain a healthy relationship at that level.
Right.
And not asking and expecting too much.
I think that's a really good point and we've really realized that in ministry and having just so many interactions and stuff that have been so many good, but then so many bad and everything. And we're like, how far can this relationship actually go and be okay with it just going to that far? Like, not everybody is supposed to come and sit on our couch for Shabbat afternoon. Not everybody is somebody you want to go for a morning walk with. Not everybody is somebody you're going to, you know, want to share your deepest secrets with. And I think, but they can still be a friend, you know, they can still be somebody that you meet in that moment up to that point, that level, and leave it there. That's a boundary. That's like saying, you know, I know how far this friendship can go and I really want to keep this friendship. I don't want to push it to see, you know, to lose it. If I push too far, I'm going to lose it. And I think that's something I have learned big time with the help of Isaac. I've learned that over the course of the years. It's been a tough thing as an extrovert who just wants to love everyone and wants everyone to love her, you know, and here's this skeptical guy coming together. And this, I just have to say, when we got married, right before we got married, the pastor gave us a little personality test. And he was like, we were done with the test and we were in the cafeteria at the camp, and he comes in, he walks in, he goes, I have one question for you. Are you sure you want to get married? And we were like, yeah. And he's like, I have never ever married two more opposite people in my life, in my whole career. It's like Isaac was clear over here on the spectrum and I'm clear over here. But it's good because like Isaac has helped me so much, like think through social issues and go and double take it. Like, do I really want to say that? Do I really want to send that letter? Do I really want to pursue that? You know, and so he makes me think, and sometimes I say yes, and then I pay consequences, or sometimes I'm right. Sometimes it was a good thing, but you know, the risking was okay. But sometimes he's prevented, you know, me from more harm with a little more caution. He brings caution to this, but then I push him to risk. So. Is there anything, okay, so anything else like in the grief process I wrote down, like, you know, you have to go through the process. So if you stop your heart from processing, you know, what happened and just bottle everything up, that is so not good. Is that what you do?
I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to do that. Let things hold it inside too long. Before I get to the point where I know I have to deal with something, which I do, and then I deal with it. But yeah, I probably go too long still.
Yeah, sometimes I think so. Like I react real fast. I deal with it real fast because
hard and fast.
Hard and fast. You know, who knows? And it's because I want to live. I want to go on. I want to get to that next thing. And I know that if I don't pass through this now, either I'm going to miss out on all the heart healing that the rock can give me in that moment, or I'm going to be like shoving it deep, and I don't know how that's going to affect. I mean, it will probably it would affect your health, your ability to sleep at night, you know, your relationship with Papa. I don't want anything to come between my relationship. So maybe he wants me to go through the valley of the shadow at that moment, and man, everything stops and I go through it.
Mm-hmm. I think the trick is learning how a healthy way to deal with stuff to like you say, not stuff it, but to deal with it, but to do it in a way that doesn't demand or require something from the other party.
Right. That's
especially
that's
something that you can't really reasonably expect.
Well, and most of the time, when I process stuff, it really, most of the time, I can't like have them involved with that at all.
Yeah, the times you go down the hardest is when you take a freshly open wound directly to them, and then it gets ugly real fast.
Yeah, and you know, time supposedly heals all wounds, kind of thing. You know, I don't know. I mean, I think time makes it easier to forget, but I have boundaries. Like certain people, just after a certain experience with them, you know, they're either on my okay list. If I see them in town, I can say hi, or we've solved the issue, or no, I'm never going. They are now never. There's no communication ever again. And so, you know, I think that, what were you saying? That it was good what you were saying.
Well, time definitely does help with a lot of things.
Oh,
but it doesn't.
It doesn't solve.
But it doesn't fix the things, you know. No. Because then when a similar situation happens later, it can instantly go right back, take you right back there, and open that up all over again.
Right.
So it definitely helps.
Time.
But it's not.
I think it helps with me more than the relationship. It helps me just like get past it and be able to see something else besides that. I was looking at you know, in the process of anger and dealing with that, and between here and when Yahshua comes back, and you don't want to sin in your anger. So where does forgiveness play in that? Like, let's just chat about that for a minute.
You're going to get a lot further forgiving yourself than trying to forgive somebody else.
No.
You know? Maybe I'm a little jaded, but I really think in most situations it's best to not involve the other party
in that process.
I know we haven't been naming situations, so it's not, I don't want to blanket cover everything, but in most situations that I've seen, you just cannot trust the other party with your heart and to understand, and so it's really best to not involve them
unless the rock moves. You know, I've had several situations where people have come and the relationship has been restored on one hand, but you know, I don't think. Well, okay, here's the thing is, okay, Yahshua says that, okay, there's different things that Yahshua says. So Yahshua's our rabbi, so we need to like shema and obey him, right? And so what he says about forgiveness is super important to look at. He says that, you know, in the Avinu prayer, in the Lord's Prayer, it's supposed to, you know, forgive us our debts as we forgive those who wrong us, is how Nehemiah Gordon and Keith Johnson wrote it or understood it and then transliterated it. So forgive us our debts as we forgive those who wrong us. So that's something we have to look at. And then also, but there's another thing that Yahshua says that I feel like Christian tapes play in our head, is that, you know, the turn the other cheek thing, that in the Hebrew understanding and the context is not what we grew up thinking. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't just let somebody hurt you once and then let them hurt you again. I mean, that's like, come abuse me and then go ahead and keep abusing me. No, that's not what he was saying. But then another thing he said was, when he was talking about forgiveness, and I think he's talking about it twice in there, and I want to look at that today on Yom Kippur in our study, but 2 times in there he's talking about, if that person who wronged you comes to you and says, will you forgive me? you are obligated to forgive them 70 times 7 or 7 times 70 or something like that. So but he clarifies that he prefaces that with an if. That's a big if. If someone comes to you and you are obligated to forgive them. So does that mean that if they don't come and they don't ask forgiveness, then you don't need to extend that? That's something to really look at, I think. But you don't want to hold on to the anger because that's going to destroy you. So you definitely don't want to do that. Because I was just going to say with you, I don't think we have ever had anyone come to us and say, will you forgive me?
No.
We've never done. I've done that. I have gone to other people and said, will you forgive me? But I don't think we've ever, out of all the pain, all the stonings, all the things that we've gone through as a ministry and people, and just the crazy making and unbelievable accusations, I don't think we've ever had anyone come to us and say, will you forgive me?
No, I've never seen or heard it.
I know, it's a really, really rare thing,
outside of ourselves. Yeah.
If I know that I have hurt someone, I will go to them and say, what did I do wrong? Please help me understand. And then I will ask for forgiveness. Absolutely. That's like easy. I want the relationship restored. I want it to be okay. But if, anyway, so that's something to really look at, is what Yahshua says about forgiveness. And I really feel like we need to learn the difference between what the Christian tapes say and what he literally said and he truly said. So, I don't think holding on to it's a good thing either. That's not what I'm saying. I don't want to look at somebody and say, oh yeah, you hurt me here, or oh yeah, you hurt me. I don't do that. I'm really good at, I don't know whether it was all the abuse I went through in my 20s and I got really good at blocking. So when you're a victim sometimes and you just have that, I don't know. It's just what I went through in my 20s. I just really think I got pretty good at blocking because I wanted to live so bad that if I allowed the abuse to take me out, I wouldn't be able to live the next day. And I just really feel like I got good at blocking. So, and on some level that's good, and it can be a bad thing when you come to process stuff. But now I process something really quickly and then I just block it, and I'm like, that's not what I want to live for. That's not what I want in front of me all the time. I want hope and joy and peace and good things in front of me. But you're going to come across all these bad things. What do you do with them? Well, you go through it. You're going to go through that knothole, and you're going to get through it, and you're going to go through that valley of suffering, and you're going to grieve it, and you're going to process it, and then you're going to forgive what you can and let go and move on and let that anger go and let those people go and set boundaries and then move forward. And that's the thing I keep thinking. You go move forward. Just keep going forward. And letting Yahshua have, he will get the justice. Like I put him in Yeshua's hand. And I know that Papa remembers. He remembers every single person that hurt his daughter, and he will get vindication. He will vindicate me, and he will get justice. He will destroy my enemies. I believe that completely. Like, not everyone is a good person. Not everyone is from Papa. Yahshua himself said that, he called the Pharisees, that your father is from the pit of hell. Your father is Hasatan. Your father is the adversary. Wow. Like, okay. So there are enemies, and Papa is going to destroy my enemies someday, and those that have hurt his daughter, but not yet. And I have no right at this point. If I was trying to do it and to vindicate myself and to destroy my enemies, it would just backfire. I'm just a little North Idaho girl. I got no power like that, but Yahshua does, and I'm so excited for that day. So is there anything else that comes up here that we're not addressing or anything this is a great conversation to have for Yom Kippur, to start Yom Kippur today with, I think.
Well, yeah, back on Yom Kippur, I guess it's, start small and practice laying it down for one day and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
where our sins have turned, what the sins have been in our past, and then how they have turned into being white as snow, and where we have turned into being clean.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's cool. And then maybe another, I think a thing with the whole, dealing with anger and issues and all that jazz. I mean, at the heart of it, it's trying to cripple. At the heart of it, the adversary wants to cripple us so that we can't be effective and work for the King. And so, once we figure out how to, put, to get new mindsets and new habits, and put the anger where it needs to be, and deal with it, and put things off, justice off, to the future when Yahshua will get that, and all this other jazz, and how you process that and everything, and do as much heart healing as you can here. What do you do next? It's like, I feel like, let's get busy for the King. Let's do, what are we going to do for the King? So I want to kind of chat about that.
Well, I think realizing that one has better things to do, having work to do, having things to do for the King, is a key as well. Realizing that you have better things to do than to be in a bad relationship.
Right.
And being stuck in all these messy issues with someone.
Right.
If you realize that when you're busy with that, there's a bunch of other stuff you're not getting done.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that this negativity and this person is like keeping you from the work you actually have been called to do, and that you're not called to muck around in that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
I think that can help a lot with the freedom to, call something like it is, put up a boundary, say, I don't need this in my life right now, or this isn't helping with
yeah, I mean, that
productivity. And
I deal with that all the time. It's like, some people want to take me down certain paths and trails, and I'm like, okay, that's going to reroute me like somewhere where I'm not supposed to be going right now. I've got so much ministry to do. I have so much work for the King to do that I can't go there. I can't process whatever issue they have against me with them. I got things to do. So cool.
We all have better things to do.
That's right. So we're gonna go make a campfire and have a little tea for the day. I think that's a good conversation. It's a great thing to talk about on Yom Kippur, and how to come into it with this, with a clean heart, and just know that, if you have the anger, and you probably have a really big, good, right reason to have it, but look at what it's doing. What are the fruit of it? Is it destroying you? Is it, helping you like move in kingdom effort? Is it energizing you in a good way? Is it righteous indignation, or is it just sinking you? Is it sinking your boat? Or is it like putting a hole in your boat sort of thing, or what? And so, yeah, definitely important. But I really feel like at some point we can get to a level where we can kind of transcend these sorts of issues and be really, really just have the blinders on and focus on Papa and what, he's asking of us to do. And if one thing he's asking us to do is to lay it down and let it go, then lay it down and let it go. Otherwise it will destroy us, right? Destroy you. So I'm getting better and better at it. But, that doesn't mean that you don't feel things, because we're not like monks where we're not like supposed to not feel anything. You do. It's just how quickly can you process it, and how quickly can you get through it, knowing that Papa loves you, knowing his heart towards you is good, and he's not asking you to, part of the question yesterday with my friend was, how do I get rid of my anger in 3 hours before sunset on Yom Kippur? And you can't. The rock knows that. The Papa would never ask us to that's legalistic. He would never ask us to process it and get through it in 3 hours before sunset, because he knows how the heart works. He made it so the heart can't work that fast. It takes time sometimes to process it. And as you go through more and more and more, and you learn how to process it in more and more healthy ways, you're going to be able to process it faster and faster. That's kind of how I've experienced it. It's not that I, don't take to heart like the issues and all that stuff. I do, but and it's not like I don't feel. I do. It's just I can process things faster now, right? Oh yeah, Remember those old days? Those were scary. Thinking back. Thinking back on how long and heavy and weighty all those things were, remember? Yeah. And now, would you say things are better? I process things a lot better, faster.
I would say so.
Okay. Mature.
Just hope for maturity.
Maturity. Oh yes. Okay. Well, thanks for chatting.
Okay.
Shalom.
Shalom.